Next speaker is Villemoes, Head of Communication at Danish Crown. Anna will present how Danish Crown work to improve the sector image.
Thank you.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
I'm going to start by seeing if I can walk the talk when it comes to communication.
Do you know this?
Yeah, I know. Also start by saying that I apologize for the voice. I'm on my 14th cup of chamomile tea today, which for me is a very clear example that I'm not at my best because I do not drink chamomile tea. So I'm a bit under the weather, and I apologize for that. Then again, I'm thinking if you were not, if you were to be under the weather anywhere, if not Iceland, then where? Just once again, I'm working on this over here. Anyway. There's just very few things in my life I can't do by myself. This would be one of them. I usually say when I'm out visiting pig producers that there's only one good thing to say about the fact that I might not be eating skins of sows. That is the fact that no matter how long I stay in on Sundays, I will not get a shoulder wound. That is a reputation issue where I work. And the other good thing is that no matter how tight this is, I will not lose my pants having and thank you.
This one. I have to turn on the mic and put the other one.
Okay, perfect. So he's going to turn on the sound because this was all apparently for show. He's also going to change this because another thing I'll have to apologize for is I know nothing about fishing. Well, almost nothing. Is there even sound now? Can you hear me? Whoa, this is working. Thank you. I'm going to take you up on dry land for a second. I'm also, as I said, I'm going to try to walk the talk because in reputation management, that would be the important thing in my book. So, in case you don't know this, I'll give you a little sort of hint as to how communication works. One thing is, if you're delivering a message standing here in front of people, then 60% of what you people are perceiving will be my body language. So, what is happening over here? I have now taken away 60% of what I want to tell you. My problem, not yours, apparently. 30% of what I'm going to tell you will be my tone of voice, my intonation, my choice of words. 10% will be my actual message. So, I'm not actually doing myself a favor, am I, if I'm standing behind a thing like this? So that would be my first thing. A lot of people that I have trained over the years. I'm also going to take this away because this is going into the microphone. By the end of this, I will be naked. Thank you. It will not be nice, but it will be funny. A lot of the people I've trained over the years, once I tell them to get out from behind this one, they're going to go, it's just that I'm a little scared. Well, you should be. If you're not ready to use yourself out there, how are you going to think people want to take you in? So basically, this is what I do. This is what I'm responsible of. I'm Director of Corporate Communications in the largest killing machine in Europe. I was giving a speech recently, and I was up on stage in Amsterdam just after a guy working for the Red Cross. Now, he didn't know exactly what Danish Crown was. A lot of you might not know either. So he goes about the whole refugee camps and stuff, and then I go up and I say, wow, you have it easy, boy, because we kill 22 million a year. And he go like, what? Well, yeah, it's pigs, okay? It's not humans or anything, but it's still a lot of dead pig. And in this day and age of CSR, it's never going to get really hot. We did, however, manage to move ourselves from where we stood 8 years ago. Let me start from the bottom. We're owned by farmers. That's never going to be a nice thing. Farmers are I don't know how they teach farmers this at the farming school, the way to be cranky. The ability to be like this. It's not angry, it's not aggressive. It's a lot like, it's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. And even when we go out as a company, we're pretty large, we deliver the best result ever. The reporters will call me up and they will say, so are the farmers happy today? No, let me rephrase that. Are they less angry today? It's a reputation thing, really. Now, I start out by saying I know absolutely nothing about fishing, which is not entirely true. I'm going to keep the mini striptease going there. My grandfather, my mother's father, was a fisherman. He had his own boat. It was a very exotic life. I believed he was away months at a time, but that is basically what I know about fishing. What I also know about fishing is that in some areas you do suffer the same reputation issues as we do. Because I got hold of this postcard today. This is here on Iceland. In Iceland, I'm sorry, because I'm in a country, not on an island. Well, apparently I'm both. But it says, don't let your visit to Iceland leave a bad taste in your mouth. Now, I've learned you had whale yesterday, shame on you. Apparently. Yeah, well, it's a bit like the thing I do, or wearing a fur coat, right? It's never going to be nice. This is where we started. We kill for a living. If the others don't understand us, it's not our problem. Not our problem. Something should have been deleted there. That's the fever speaking. I did this last night. As long as somebody else is doing worse, we don't have to improve. I don't know if you've heard these lines before. When you talk to farmers, it's like this. Yeah, I know that's the legislation, but I know better. And I spend a lot of time going around saying, that's a lot like me going 160 on the freeway, and the police pulls me over and says, you're not allowed. And then I say, well, this is better for me. He's not going to say, then it's okay. It's not how it works. They don't get that. All the good products are sold outside of Denmark. We do back bacon. We send it to the UK. It's a good story. 60% of the bacon the UK people eat comes from Denmark. Now, the British people hate us for this. They have created a 4-year-long campaign that says, buy British, in order to come back into the market, but we just do it better. So this was sort of the starting point. It's like being hired to clean in a place that's really dirty, which is a great satisfactory thing, because you can see exactly how far you've come at every moment. They had a huge scandal on their hands a year before I was hired, and they were suffering from post-traumatic stress, basically, which at the end of the day gives you a very strong mandate if you are strong enough and strong-headed enough to take it, because they were scared of the phones at that time. The funny part when you talk about reputation management is, now, I was the first female director to be hired in a company that has 125 years of history. The farmers might accept women to be in the work market, but that's as far as it goes. So they still call me the information secretary. And what they said in the beginning, doing this, so how are you going to avoid another cleaning scandal, huh? Meaning, if we really wanted to work with this area, we would have hired a man. Now, I did not used to have these kind of points of view 8 years ago, but I certainly got them after starting working here. I love the company. I love the farmers. It's a lot of challenge. But anyway, the only answer to that question is, we will clean. And they go like, what? No, we're going to go out buying image campaigns. No, we're not. We're going to clean. Once we got the whole thing cleaned up, we're going to tell that story, but not until we do that. Oh God, it's annoying that you have to clean up first and before you can tell the story. Yes. In that sense, reputation management is actually pretty easy. The problem is that you're judged by the lowest quarter of your behavior. So I went in and I said, aside from the whole tidying up in the back end of the company, we clean, we get our things straight in every way possible. We are based financially on food safety worldwide. There's only 2 companies, now you're talking about Asia, only 2 companies worldwide that has direct access to China when it comes to pork meat. We're one of them. It all comes down to food safety. We're checked, we're audited, we're visited every month by Chinese people, American people, Japanese people. We're the world's largest meat export company. This is what we live of. So I said, I looked at the values of what we do. And a lot of you guys knows companies that has values like, we show respect, we want to be ahead, blah, 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 blah. blah, 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 blah. Have you ever heard about a company that as a core value has defined, we would like to be dragging our feet a little, be a little behind the others? Have you ever heard about a company that's that defined? No. Have you ever heard about a company that as a core value sat down and said, it will be important for us to do things disrespectfully? No. But then those things are not core values for a certain company. Then this is just about being basic, showing basic decency, doing things as you should. It's not core values. So I was lucky enough that we changed HR director, and overnight, between the one left and the other started, I pulled the plug on the values. My boss is the CEO. He's a great guy. He's the one furthest to. Now, I don't do right and left pretty well, but over there, Kjell is his name. I'm really funny driving a car with, I'll go like, go to the right. And they'll go like, so I basically drive myself most of the time. But I went to him and I said, these values have got to go. We have one key value. It's all about food. It's not a marketing slogan. It took 4 years before the marketing guys started saying, maybe we should try putting it on the packages too. But that's not where it started. I own corporate branding. And I said, this is a matter of, as a farmer, you should go out, look at your animals every day, ask yourself, if people came and saw what I'm doing, would they eat it? If your answer is, could they come back next week? We have a problem. As a slaughter worker, we have hygiene locks you have to go through to get in and out of the slaughter facilities. In Horsens, you can see the world's most modern slaughter facility, and we have 25,000 people visiting there each year because we want to show it off. It's transparency all over. You have hygiene locks to go into the production. There are ways of beating that system. And once in a while, there will be a guy called Brian, and he'll go, hey, you know what? I was just out taking a pee. Going in through. Now he gets into his workstation. He's handling meat, raw meat. He should ask himself every day, once an hour, would I want to bring this home, feed it to my family? If he has doubts, if he's going to go, in that case, I'd rather bring home what Anders is making over here. We have a problem. So this is a mindset. And it's so simple that no matter if you come from Poland or Germany or Ukraine or whatever, we have 60 different nationalities just in that one place in Horsens. We also speak the language of deaf people. Now, a neck cutlet, that's the name for that. This is true, actually, because we learned the deaf language in order to function there. But this is what you should ask yourself, and this obligates you in the ways you communicate. My point being, you cannot start with communication. You cannot start with being fancy and smart and having advertising campaigns, because this is not about campaigning. This is about creating a story. And once you start saying it's all about food, then your annual report is a cookbook. It's not an annual report with a recipe in it. It's not an annual report with a funny picture in it. It's a cookbook. It's a coffee table cookbook. And this is from the annual report last year. The CEO and the CEO of the beef department and one of the Danish very famous chefs, the guy in the white, cooking with them. It's also about food when you go and meet your customers, your consumers. We skipped a lot of the things we used to do and we built a big kitchen, and now we travel with that, which means we can only do it a few times a year because my budget is like this. So that's how we do. We cook with people. Gives you the possibility to tell the story. And it makes people laugh because we wear t-shirts saying fancy a piece of meat or meat eater, or we're funny that way. It's also about food when you have to present the new chairman of the board and the vice chairman of the board. That's these two guys here. The tallest one was a little, because he's a little vain, went like, you're absolutely sure this is a good idea? Yes, I am. Now, I have told these guys, we do it my way or somebody else does it. I don't do it somebody else's way. I'm a bitch that way. And why work with reputation? Because we have the pig producers in Denmark right now screaming for better reputation, more reputation, more. They call it image all the time. It's like, don't go there. And I go and I tell them, Basically, you can count on you have the reputation you deserve. They do not like me for saying that. We're not like they're saying, no, but some of you are. Which is a really, really awful thing, which I will believe you will find in the fishing industry as well. A lot of people owning their own boats, having their own companies, small or big, thinking that as long as I do things decent, then how come I am to blame for what the guy over here is doing? Well, that's the way it is. It's about nature. The animals are alive. We have to know that we're in it together. It's like one big company. So you have the reputation you deserve. Accept it. Only a change of action can change your reputation. There's no buying the way into it. There's also no explaining that, but listen, 70, 80, maybe even 90% of the time we're actually doing it okay. But that's not the story. I'm an old reporter. I used to be a journalist for 10 years. And it's the 10% that's the funny story. It's the name of the game. It might not be fair, it might not be right, but perception is king. The truth of the man in the fishing boat is not the truth if the consumers do not agree with him. It's not about being right. It's about somebody else actually believing you're right. Perception is king. Know that. If the consumers have a different view, if the people behind this postcard, if there's enough of those, I'm a strong believer in democracy, even if it sometimes means that the stupid people have a majority. It's the name of the game. So you got to learn how to play it. Make sure that you have the right alliances, that you know who to be in agreement with. Make sure they know your thing. The thing about reputation is it's not about being liked. A lot of the farmers go, when I ask them, why do you want to have better reputation? They go, it's because it's so annoying to go to a dinner party and then you tell them what you do and then they kind of hate you already. Yeah, well, poor you, not my problem. My problem, however, is that we have a very, very big issue with competitiveness compared to other countries around us. If you look at the salaries in Denmark, the tax system in Denmark is very different from the rest of the EU countries. So we need to have a dialogue with politicians who sets the frame for how we can produce, no matter if we're talking about the livestock production or the slaughterers. Now, if we cannot be seen, if a politician does not want to be seen with us, because we're the bad boys that has bad news on the TV, nobody's going to support us. Nobody's even going to listen to us. So this is about being somebody that you can afford being seen with. And that's why reputation matters. I mean, we just had what we call a growth package come out in Denmark some weeks ago. And if you look at it, then the Danish Crown has its big, mean thumb all over it. Because we managed now to get that into that dialogue, talking about workplaces in Denmark. I do apologize for the voice. This is really weird listening to myself. So last year we turned 125 years old. And for 125 years we've been part of every Christmas Eve you've had. We've been part of every Sunday lunch you've had. That's our chairman right now. We've been part of, just always curious as to what the next, every lunchbox you've made. This is a kit of one of the workers in one of our store facilities. We've been part of every time you came home late, wanted an open sandwich before going off to bed. That's the CEO in his kitchen. We've been there when the women left the kitchens and went out into the work market and the food production changed. Had to send the men, this is our CFO, out shopping. And we've been there every time you had one too many beers and needed a hot dog to save your life on the way home. This is the City Hall in Copenhagen. That was the story we went with the entire last year. It could have been a story about how many companies and how big and how much we've grown. We've basically done a lot of the things you're pointing to. Consolidated, created a thing, and just to make it a little funny, now we look at the Asian market too. Getting a little by the fact that up till last week, we were the second largest pig slaughtering facility in the world. We still are, but up to last week, the largest one was an American one. Now it's still in the US, that one, but it's now owned by the Chinese. They're moving in. But as we say in our part of the world, having just 1% of the Chinese markets still makes for a pretty big thing. And we're the largest exporter of meat to the Chinese. Actually, if you put it this way, we export because knowing exactly what the byproducts are, how the different cultures have an impact on what you produce, very important. Because in Denmark, who these days want to eat pig's feet? Well, I'm sorry, but not me. I'm also never going to be big on the womb soup. There are a few other things that I'd rather be without. Now, these things are very big articles in China, not because it's waste, not because they can't afford anything else, but because it's a different food culture. I was there last year, and I'm going there again in a month, and I'm already sort of bracing myself because if anybody's had the sea gherkin, you only go there once. I'm sorry, it's so not a fish. I mean, ew. Just after the sea gherkin, in comes the gobble. And after that, in comes the chicken feet, and after that, in comes the shark fin, and then you go like, do I have to eat anymore? Because there was just nothing in there going like, yes, food. But that's the thing. We export 33 million pig feet a year to China. If you put those in one long row, it actually has the same length as the Great Chinese Wall. That's a funny figure, isn't it? The ears go to China as well. All the wombs go. The latest big issue or article we found out was that in Thailand, they really enjoy the sow teats if they still have milk in them. But the milk has to not gone sour. So we just built recently a new freezing facility in order to freeze down the sow teats immediately after slaughtering in order to ship it off to Thailand, because then they boil the teats in its own milk. A little on the weird side, but then again, it's Thailand. It's not me. So who am I to judge? So last year I had to tell the story about 125 years of food history. And July 14th, 125 years ago, 500 farmers got together and established the first cooperatively owned slaughter facility in Denmark. Over the last 30 years, 62 slaughter facilities were built, and actually creating the map of Denmark we know today, because the cities were built around the slaughter facilities, not the other way around. And I said, how do we tell this story? We're based on the export to the UK, still our most important market. Somebody told me about a big ship. And I'm telling you this not because of the story of Danish Crown, but because communication is about basically telling the story. But it is not about inventing a story or creating a story. The story will already be at what it is you're doing. But it is very much a matter of understanding who am I telling the story to. Because what happens is, in farming, in fishing, in whatever we do, we look at ourselves, we surround ourselves with people just like ourselves, we think this is how the world looks. What a mistake. Because the people we actually want to reach are the people producing postcards like this. They do not come to dinner at our home, usually. Most of the time, basically. Because such a long evening ahead of you that way. But that's the people you want to reach. And this is not me inventing something, but Kierkegaard, who we are now celebrating in Denmark, because it's been 200 years, he said it. He said, you want to move people? You cannot stand over here, look at the guy over there saying, I want to move you, so you know what, just come over here. Because what you can't see is the way the light falls from over where he's standing. It looks like over here, wow, there's a lot of obstacles to getting over there. You have to know this in order to move him. So the thing is, in order to move anybody, in order to get in the dialogue, you got to move over here and stand next to the guy going like, okay, I'm going to see, try and see what you see. That's the point number one. So it's about telling the story, but telling the story from the point of view of the people you want to reach. So what we did was I took a big ship out. Now I consider myself to be fairly knowledgeable about a lot of stuff, basically. There is one area where I'm blank. Sport. Nothing there at all. So I had the idea, I said, I'm going to take a ship and I'm going to fill it up with salted pork like they did 125 years ago. I'm going to sail it to London and have a pork party. And somebody said, great idea, because that's, you're going to hit the Olympics. And I go, now, you know, now you're talking about the Olympics. Exactly what kind of Olympics are we talking about there? And when again are you? I mean, you sure that's London? Because I haven't heard about it. For a minute there, I thought my idea was dead, but I can basically talk people to death. So this is the sail-off party. This is the salted pork. I got some guys I told some really old guys, retired like 20 years ago, said, I want you to make a brine for me like the one they used 125 years ago. And they said, no, you don't. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Yes. Said it would kill people to eat it today. Because they actually used a live brine. It could be up to 80 years old. They would put entire pork heads in it to make it bubbly and nice. Then they put the meat in there. So this is a sterile brine, but we put it on deck. We sailed off. It's a beautiful ship. And after 7 days, out in the sun, in the salt water, in the wind, we took the pork out. No refrigerators back 125 years ago. I must admit, I said to the guys, if it's very green and very slimy, we just tuck it overboard and we'll not mention this again. We had a live camera and a lot of photographers on board. And the chef, he goes, looks nice. I think I'm going to taste it. And I go like, don't do that. But that's what they did back then. And it tasted marvelous. And we closed in on London. I'm telling you this also because one of the big issues with areas or branches that has a reputation issue is that over time they get defensive. They open every kind of dialogue with a bit of the farmer's crankiness. They're already expecting people to be against them. And we all have one of those in our private, surroundings. He's not the one who comes to coffee very often, is he? Because God, he's tiresome. So it's all about having a little bit of self-irony, a little sense of humor to the story you're telling, a little daring to make people smile. That pig there is the most hugged pig in Denmark. Nobody even reacts to the fact that she eats bacon. I mean, somebody would say that's a little on the weird side, but she actually just ran the Copenhagen Marathon last week, which was funny. And then we used the boat for that's the Queen's husband. He doesn't like to be referred to like that, but so we had the royal family, we had the Japanese customers, we had the English customers, we had a lot of political organizations, a lot of press. We of course had the CNN, the BBC, the Sunday Times, and a lot of those medias. I think my top was the day that a TV crew was standing up on the pier saying, permission to come on board, and I said, where are you guys from? We're from Al Jazeera. And I go, now you are aware this is the bacon ship, right? And they go, yes, but you're the talk of town, we love the pig, can we come on board? So Frida has actually been, that's her name, she's actually been on Al Jazeera now. I got a little hand sign from over there a minute ago. So I'd like to just close off by telling you a story about how the whole perception thing works. Because perception basically sometimes makes people blind. We all know about the Greenpeace campaigns, the whole Brigitte Bardot sitting with the little seal, and everybody knowing that these seals would be so aggressive that if that animal wasn't already clubbed, she wouldn't be sitting with it. Which is kind of a backward story, isn't it? Now, I didn't used to be this convinced on this side of the table. I used to be a spin doctor for a minister, a very tough one we had in Denmark called Rit Bjerregaard. She was not exactly a fan of farming, and the farmers are still not a fan of her. And then I went and became head of press at the Consumer Council. So I've been on both sides of the table, learning that knowledge. There's a huge lack of knowledge everywhere. And now, today, I have a lot of reporters calling us. And the funniest question I've had, I have a lot of those, but the funniest one I've had is, I had this question posed 300 times in 1 week. Now, you're one of the largest companies in Denmark. You must be severely hit by the Mohammed crisis. I'll just let it lie there for a second. And then I go, are you seated okay? Take a deep breath and then ask yourself, what is the core business of Danish Crown? I'll help you out. We're the world's second largest producer of pork meat. Now here comes another question for you. Would that be a product in really high demand in the Middle East? No. They have a book saying, well, fish would be better, basically. Back to your question. Are we really hit by the... No, we're not. Now, why make a joke out of it? Because the next question would always be, shouldn't you feel obligated to help finance a new mosque? Imagine going out to a farmer who's got blood red figures on the bottom of his balance sheet and saying, listen, sweetheart, we're going to take the quotation down a notch because we're going to help build a mosque. And before you ask, no, they're not going to become your new customers at all, ever, basically. Tricky one, isn't it? I'll finish you off with one last favorite question of mine, and then I'll leave you to a speaker with a better voice. I had a very young reporter calling me one day. I'm hoping she was very young. That would be, that would help her out a little. I'm in my car, and she says, do you actually think it's okay that you kill the animals? I'm thinking for a second, what she's meaning is the way we do it, and I'm ready with the whole meet me at the storage facility, we'll take the chat. But she didn't. She meant it. And I'm thinking it's a funny question to pose to somebody who is working for the largest slaughter facility in Europe. But then again, so I'm thinking, let's go with a sense of humor here. And I say, now you caught me just sort of off my thing for a second there. So I can, from where I'm sitting, see two other options. Could you help me point to which one would be best? Because I'm not really clear on either of them. One would be, we could eat it alive. And the thing is, I have this really white sort of wooden floor in my kitchen. It's not really built for it. And I'm a one-person household, and I'm thinking 82.4 kilograms of pig, like in one. I'm a foodie, but still, it's a lot of meat, isn't it? And it raises a lot of questions, like, where do you start? And how fast can you get it to not go oink, oink once you start? Is that from the bag or from the, does it have to be in the refrigerator, the rest of it? How do you invite people over for leftover? It's a bit messy, isn't it? And I'm actually having a blast in my car. I'm basically laughing, but she's not. Very, very quiet there. And I say the other option, and now I might offend some people in here. I apologize in advance, but this is how I go. The other option would be for you and me to turn the entire world into a place of fruitarians. They only eat things that died by themselves and only fruit. Meaning also that we're not wearing shoes anymore. I'm a very, in that sense, average woman. I put on shoes today that will lower my BMI with at least 2. I do not want to live in a world where I have to build my own shoes out of paper and only eat rotten apples. I can't see it happening. Also, this is where the offensive part comes. I've never met a vegan or a fruitarian with a really solid sense of humor. It seems to me there is a lack of proteins there. I don't know. Now, at one point, I was telling this story to somebody, big room full of people. There's a German girl who seemed to also not have the greatest sense of humor. I don't know. Put up her hand and she said, I think it's not fair that for profit you call vegetarians retards. And I'm going, no, not retard. I've had boyfriends who had no sense of humor, but they were pretty clever. It's not retard. It's not the same thing for me, at least. It was for her, apparently. Very tricky. But that's the world we live in. So, gotta meet those guys that produce the postcards. Stand over there, hold their hands, and going, show me what it is you see, because I don't see it. And once they've shown you, then you can say, you know what? Now take my hand, and I'll take you over here and show you what it is I see. But the first step will always be the ones in the industry. Thank you. I didn't even blow my nose once. I'm already feeling better.
Thank you, Anne. Excellent talk. I'm feeling a little bit shy standing here behind this. It's difficult. No. It's time for one or two quick questions. Please.
Thank you very much. One question. How do you see that this marine sector, that you seem to know a bit more about than you said in the beginning, and the meat industry could collaborate into increased awareness of integrity in the food value chain in general?
Well, I think it raises both. Well, for one, surf and turf. It's already there, isn't it? I was actually out taking a stroll, dressed with a scarf up to here today, dropped into, now that's me, I'm bad all the way through, I even wear a fur coat. It's like, how awful can it be? There was a beautiful little fur shop up here, got talking to the owner. I assure you I did not buy anything, very close though. But he does surf and turf jackets. Fur jackets with fish skin. One way of starting it. No, to be serious. I think one of the challenges in this day and age is that once we start talking about branding and brand value, then the day and age where the idea of branding generic things, I mean, we're basically trying really to pull out of the whole branding Danish as a meat brand. It was the biggest brand in the UK during the 50s. We would have the Danish, the whole side down to the entire pork side, the pig. And the TV commercials in UK would go, but mommy, how can you tell it's quality? Oh, sweetheart, that's because it says Danish. That was good. But the world is not like that anymore. It moves too fast. And the idea of creating generic brands saying Norway and fish, like, you know, most companies, once they start growing, they are going to want people to say, well, Norway and fish, but from this company. So there is a difference between the advertising world, the campaigning, the specific consumer campaigning, and then what we call the corporate branding thing or the country branding thing. I think there's, for a company like Danish Crown, we're working in 130 countries. And we don't do the whole Norwegian thing. I mean, you can scale it down even within tiny Denmark. You'll have people thinking that we want to do branding in a region in Denmark. It's like, no, we don't, because we're too big for that. So I don't know if they can work together, but I do believe that there is a few things tying them together, and that's a mentality thing. It all comes out of businesses that, if you go back not that far, used to rule the world in our part of the world. I mean, if you look at the farmers in Denmark, the fishing industry in Denmark has suffered more, but you see the same happening to the farmers right now. Still, the food culture, the food export in Denmark accounts for more than half of the surplus of the trade balance. So it's not nothing, right? It's a couple of 100,000 workplaces in Denmark alone. But there is a mentality thing that you go back just 50 years, then all the ministers in Denmark would have been farmers or people from the fishing industries or people from the pirate industry. And that mentality is still that. Basically, you have 4,000 active pork producers left in Denmark. They amount to a lot when it comes to the currency income of the state of Denmark. But their mentality is still, now that we have decided among ourselves what the legislation should be, we'll go tell the minister. It's like, I'm not sure it works like that anymore, sweetheart. Get to work. I mean, so I think some of the people in this room, we have a responsibility to be better at teaching the people producing the food how the consumers think. Because that would be a first step. We're actually right now, because it comes out of my sick brain, we did a measurement on the whole reputation thing, farming in Denmark, and said, how does the farmer conceive themselves in this area? How does the consumers conceive the farming in this area? And how does the farmers expect the consumers to perceive them? Now, the discrepancy between the last two is very interesting, to see that the farmers expect the consumers to believe even worse of them than they do, because the farmers kind of hate the consumers. out of principle. And I go like, listen, sweetheart, could you be careful there stating that, because those are the people who are going to eat your products. You cannot eat all that pork yourself. We have to be in dialogue. This is still kind of a new thought for them. So, so we're actually doing a thing, and you could consider, this is an idea for free. Because doing this turnaround is not a matter of budgets and money. It's a matter of ideas and a bit of humble attitude that we have to learn. So he said, until now, we've invited the consumers to go out, visit the farm and see, so this is what you do. Problem is, the farmers doesn't understand the consumers. So we're now just casting, to be quite frank, now the doors are almost closed here, so nobody can hear it, casting 15 farmers, very farming-like, very dialect, very out in the farming countryside. But also people who are willing to go into dialogue. We're not, bullying people, because we have those two. Sending them off to Copenhagen or to Aarhus, the bigger cities, spending a full day with the consumer going, okay, we go shopping. So when you look in why are you choosing that meat? Can you see, that's from Germany, why not? Having a dialogue there. Going to cafes, paying 48 Danish kroner for a cafe latte. Some of the farmers have never met a cafe latte before. Denmark is this small, but this is how big we are still, Going like, sitting there at Café Sommersko in Copenhagen, feeling a little uncomfortable. Because the farmers need to know, imagine that going both ways. I imagine people in the fishing industry in Iceland having issues with people who produce postcards like this. It will always be the industry that has to take the first step, always. Because right now, you're dealing with a tiny group of opinionated people who has the voice in the media and who are standing like this. So your dialogue, you're over there wearing your red nose and your funny hat and trying to be ha-ha. What is happening? They can't see you. They're over here. So you have to figure out what does it take to make them turn around. I think in that sense, but the meat industry in the rest of Europe are way behind. I basically do believe we're the only ones who are wearing the clown nose and the funny hat right now. I don't know if that answered your question. I think we can learn from the mentality issue.
Okay, thank you.
I can talk people to death, so
I
please.
know. So the short version was to understand the consumer.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
to have a little humble attitude.
Thank you. Thank you very much.